Before you buy a Labubu toy, watch this. What most people don't know is that Labubu isn't just a toy. Lagos is a city full of hustle, fashion and fast-moving trends. In Lekki, 3 best friends, Aisha, Sandra and Temi, shared more than just friendship. They shared vibes, parties and dreams of going viral on social media. They were TikTok girls, pretty, curvy and always chasing the next big thing. One Friday night, after eating shawarma and scrolling through TikTok at Sandra's apartment, Temi suddenly shouted, "See this toy where everybody dey buy now, Labubu." She turned her phone to show them. It was a strange-looking toy with a weird head, big eyes and tiny, sharp teeth. But for some reason, people loved it. They say if you get your content go blow, Sandra said. Even influencers for abroad dey buy Aisha added. That night, they couldn't stop thinking about it. They joked, laughed, and finally agreed to contribute money together to buy one Labubu and take turns keeping it. They just wanted clout and to follow the trend. The next morning, they took a boat to Yaba Market. After asking around, a guy pointed them to a narrow path behind some vintage shops. There they found a small store filled with strange dolls, toys and carvings. A quiet man stood inside, his eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. "You dey find Labubu?" he asked. "How you take no?" Temi asked, surprised. He didn't answer. He simply brought out a box and showed them the toy. The 3 girls gasped. It looked exactly like the one online, but somehow the real one looked older and kind of creepy. "How much?" Sandra asked. 45,000, original, no fake, the man replied. "But once you buy you no fit return They laughed, thinking he was just trying to sound mysterious to sell it. As they were leaving, an old woman sweeping nearby looked at them and said, "Not everything way dey trend na for your hand." They ignored her. Lagos girls don't fear market gist. Labubu stayed with Aisha first. She used it to shoot a funny video with a voiceover. The next morning, 1 million views, their first ever. She screamed with excitement. "It work! Omo, this toy na magic!" But later that same day, while walking down the stairs to an event where she was supposed to sign a brand deal, she slipped and fell. She had a fracture, and it took weeks for her to heal. Aisha was heartbroken, but tried to stay calm. Then it was Sandra's turn to keep the Labubu toy. She slept with it beside her on the bed. At night, she heard small movements in her room, like plastic shifting, but assumed it was just a rat. She ignored it. The next morning, her skin was covered in black spots and rashes. Still, the girls didn't link it to Labubu. When Temi took the Labubu toy home, she was excited. She placed it on the chair beside her and made a TikTok video with it. Boom! 2 million views, 50,000 likes. Her followers started growing fast. But the next morning, her TikTok and Instagram accounts were hacked. Out of nowhere, problems started piling up for all 3 friends. They met at Sandra's apartment to talk about everything. "This all started when we bought that Labubu," Sandra said. That was when they realised the toy they brought home wasn't just creepy, it was evil. The room went cold. "What exactly did we bring into our lives?" Temi asked. They stared at it. "Maybe we should burn it," Aisha said. "No, let's just throw it away first," Temi replied. They wrapped it in black nylon, dropped it in a street-side waste bin and went home, feeling relieved. But 20 minutes later, while they were sitting in the living room, Temi's eyes widened. She screamed. Labubu was back, sitting on the chair. Same strange smile, same position. But now, its eyes looked wet, like it had been crying. The next morning, fear was written all over their faces. Sandra barely slept. Aisha looked pale. Temi had prayed all night with her mother's anointing oil, but nothing worked. Labubu was still there in the living room, smiling. "We need to take it back to that man in Yaba," Temi said. "Yes," Sandra agreed. "Let him collect this thing and refund us, or at least take it away." They grabbed the toy, wrapped it again in black nylon like it was a dead body, and entered a boat. The driver kept glancing at them through the mirror as they argued in low voices. Even he could feel something was wrong. They got down at the same street, the one behind the vintage stalls. But something was off. The path that once led to the small kiosk was now blocked. Rusty zinc sheets covered the entrance. The stall itself was gone. "Are we in the wrong place?" Aisha asked. "No, this is the same corner," Temi replied, confused. They walked up to a nearby meat cellar. "Excuse me, please. Where's that small toy shop that used to be here?" The man wiped his knife, glanced at them, and replied, "Toy shop? Madam, this area is for food and second-hand clothes. Nobody sells toys here." The girls froze. A woman selling tomatoes nearby overheard them. "You girls said toy shop? Since when? We've never had anything like that on this side of the market." "But we bought a toy here just last week," Sandra shouted. An old man sitting under a tree looked up slowly and said, "Many people come here saying the same thing. They claim they saw a shop that doesn't exist." Goosebumps crawled over their skin. They kept asking around. Everyone gave the same answer. No one had ever seen a man selling toys there. "But we saw him," two screamed. "He always does this kind of thing. Maybe they use jars to blind our eyes," Aisha whispered. Sandra unwrapped the nylon. "Maybe if we leave it here..." "Don't open it here!" someone shouted from across the road. It was the same old woman who had warned them the first day. She pointed at them with trembling fingers. "You people don't listen. Now it has followed you." "Followed us? Madam, what is this thing?" Temi cried. The woman just shook her head and turned away. Behind them, the nylon moved slightly on its own. Back in Sandra's apartment, the air felt heavy. Labubu was back on the table, out of the nylon, staring at them. "But I wrapped it myself," Aisha said. "We left it in the market," Sandra added. They were trembling. Temi collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "This thing is destroying our lives. I've lost everything I worked for all these years." Suddenly, Aisha stood up. "Let's burn it." "No," Sandra said slowly. "Let's drown it in the lagoon." They stared at the toy. Its green colour was still there, but now it looked bigger, and its tiny hand was pointing at them. The next morning, the girls met at 3rd Mainland Bridge. They had wrapped Labubu tightly in black nylon, tied it with rope, and placed it inside a Gunos go bag filled with stones. Nobody spoke much during the ride. They were tired, confused, and afraid. Lagos was just waking up, buses honking, hawkers shouting, but for the girls, the world felt like it was closing in. "This is it," Temi whispered. They walked quietly to the edge of the bridge, checked to make sure no one was watching, and threw the bag into the water. It vanished instantly beneath the waves. No splash, no trace, just gone. They didn't speak as they boarded their boats to head home. There was a strange sense of peace, like they had finally broken free, or so they thought. Back at Sandra's apartment, she unlocked the door, let out a sigh of relief and stepped inside. Aisha followed, then Temi, but the moment they entered the sitting room, they froze. The toy was on the centre table, not wet, not wrapped, just sitting there, dry, grinning. Temi screamed and dropped her bag. Aisha backed up toward the door. Sandra's knees gave out. "No, no! We threw it in the ocean. We all saw it." The toy was now facing them. But something was different. Its eyes were red. That night, none of them could sleep. At exactly 2:13 a.m., each girl had the same dream. They were in a dark room. Labubu was sitting on a chair, whispering things they couldn't understand. Behind it stood a shadowy figure, tall, silent, breathing heavily. The room smelled like melted plastic and damp wood. Then the figure pointed at them one by one. Sandra, Temi, Aisha. They all woke up screaming, each from her own bed, each with a scratch mark on her inner arm. Same shape, same spot. Aisha called an emergency meeting the next morning. "I can't go through this again," she said. Her eyes were swollen. "I saw the scratch. I felt it in the dream. I woke up and it was real." Sandra sat in silence, trembling. Temi pulled out her phone. "I googled it. Labubu isn't just a toy. It's connected to some dark ritual from Asia, Japan or somewhere. Some say it carries spirits, restless ones."
So we invited a demon into our lives because of TikTok?
Sandra whispered. The room went quiet. Then Aisha asked the question they had all been avoiding. What if the only way to stop this is if one of us cries? The toy, still sitting on the shelf, giggled. The air in Sandra's apartment had changed. Cold, still. The curtains barely moved. Yet the girls felt like something was watching them from every corner. Temi sat on the floor, clutching her phone. "We need help." They went to a local prayer house in Mushin. The prophet listened quietly as they told him everything. How they bought a strange toy. How their lives started falling apart. How the toy refused to leave. When they showed the prophet a photo of Labubu, he stood up slowly. "This thing is not a toy," he said. "It carries a spirit of vanity and destruction. It attaches itself to people who crave fame, quick attention, and fake success." The girls stared at him, speechless. He continued, "You opened the door yourselves. Not every trend is meant for you. Some things online come with hidden battles." He led them through 3 nights of prayer, fasting and deliverance. The toy was wrapped in white cloth, covered in salt, and burned behind the church. As the flames rose, it screamed, not out loud, but inside their minds, like something furious that had just been cast out. They never saw it again. But the damage was already done. Sandra had to rebuild her business from scratch. Temi lost her apartment and had to move back in with her aunt. Aisha missed a scholarship interview because her laptop crashed the week of the test. They started over, slowly, quietly, and far away from the noise of fake online life. 6 months later, they met one afternoon at a quiet cafe in Eke. No filters, no ring lights, no TikTok. Just 3 friends laughing like they used to.
"I'm done chasing trends,"
Sandra said. Temi smiled.
"I'm done comparing myself to people online.
Aisha sipped her drink.
If it doesn't bring me peace, I don't want it."
They had all learnt the hard way. In the rush to go viral, not every trend is worth following. Some things online look harmless, fun, popular, even magical, but underneath the hype may be pressure, danger, and destruction disguised as clout. This is a wake-up call to Gen Z. Every viral challenge, every trending product, every aesthetic lifestyle comes with a price. If you're not careful, you'll trade your peace, privacy, and purpose just to stay relevant. Before you click buy, like, or post, ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it just noise? Because not everything trending is harmless. Some trends come with chains you can't see until it's too late. So, protect your mind. Value your peace. In a world full of digital illusions, staying grounded is your real superpower. Choose authenticity over attention. Choose wisdom over hype. Choose freedom over fame. If you've learnt something from this story, kindly like, share, and subscribe to Niger Trends TV for more exciting stories like this.